they set it up.
Third were my doctor that operated on my neck a couple years ago.
After our decision to make a proposal on the ballot, I contacted Shannon Creighton at Armstrong Teasdale because it's important when you do something like that the ballot language be written properly and can be supported by ultimately the attorneys who may have to defend the tax-exempt status of the bonds. So they did some research. I asked for her to consider ballot language that would allow us either to have a bond issue or to use other means of financing, like leasing it or lease purchase or certificates of appreciation. And what they came back with is that you can't do that. You can't mix them. You either have to have a bond proposal on the ballot or an operating levy increase on the ballot to cover the cost of leasing or bank financing in the event that you don't do a bond. And the reason I kind of was reluctant to do the bond is because when you do bond issues for relatively small amounts of money in the scheme of municipal finance, like $670,000, which would be a small bond issue, the cost of issuance begin to become kind of burdensome because the legal fees and underwriter fees now become a bigger portion of the whole. Not to say it can't be done, and it would be outrageously expensive to do it that way. And so that kind of created a conundrum that we need to address here tonight, and that is, since we have to choose, do we choose to go with the bond issue, and there's an ordinance in your packet for consideration tonight, or an operating levy increase, and there's an ordinance for that in your packet tonight? And the reason that's a problem is because with the bond issue, you can be specific. You can say, we're going to do a bond issue, we're going to do it for a ladder truck, here's the dollar amount, and that's what you do. The operating levy increase can't contain that specific language. And so it's more open-ended. Your intention is to do it for the piece of equipment. That's what you tell everyone. That's what we would do, but that language can't be in the ballot. They both can be limited. In our case, we're proposing 10 years, so you don't have a problem with it being not sunsetting. But we have a decision to make, and I'm concerned, and I think the thing that we should be considered is we're promising a ladder truck, and if you have ballot language that doesn't say that, no matter what you say in proposing it, how is that going to be received by the voters when they're in the booth getting ready to vote yes or no?
Have we got anywhere at all on asking donations for this at all? You know,
We have some prior commitments.
We do have?
Well, but not, you'd have to, those people who committed would have to re-up. We haven't approached them about it since they gave those commitments the first time.
Which is how long ago?
A year.
Okay. But we've never contacted these people
We
at
haven't
all?
followed up yet, no.
Why?
Why?
We just had that.
And I'm not sure why we didn't do that. We're going to put those on a ballot and hopefully get people to vote for them. And
Well, we
have-
just decided that like 2 weeks ago.
Well, we're gonna ask,
It's still.
we're gonna ask for the vote for the amount needed to.
Have you contacted anybody?
Have I? No. Have you?
No.
Okay.
Regardless, the amount that we were gonna proposed on the ballot was going to cover the cost. Our hope was that we wouldn't get that authority. It doesn't mean you have to issue that much.
Right.
And that we would then be able to realize some savings.
So if this is how it reads on the ballot, how is somebody coming in to vote going to know how much their taxes are going to go up if it's the bond issue one? How?
Well, the ballot won't prescribe the tax increase. I mean, that's
Yeah.
something that we have to explain.
Okay. Would it be much different than
You know,
the other?
operating
It's
levy,
gonna
they're
be-
going to authorize the debt.
Okay.
Basically the same amount. I mean,
Either one will be the same amount.
The same amount for their taxes to increase per year or whatever?
Yes, there's no
Okay.
difference.
There's no difference.
It's a function.
For citizens.
Well, it could be a difference. There's a function, it's a function of the amount, the interest rate, and the term. It's possible that the bond issue would have lower interest rate than a lease payment. I don't know. We're talking to equipment suppliers, they said that lease purchase agreements are available. Obviously, they're not going to quote us an interest rate until we're ready to pursue the deal. The bond issue, if we got the equipment quotes for $620,000, we'd have to add on the cost of issuance. So if you did realize a little savings in the interest, you're also going to have to borrow a little more in order to cover the cost of raising the funds. So I can't tell you exactly how all that's going to fall out in the end.
If we were to get any significant donations towards this, could this levy possibly end sooner than 2025, or will people be paying until 2025?
It could be paid off soon.
And then that tax would go away sooner? That's legal to do if we say this is going to be, oh, for a period not later than, okay, I see.
On section 6 on page 2, it says the mayor, the city clerk, and other officers and representatives of the city and hereby authorized and directed to take such other actions as may be necessary to carry out the purpose and intent of this ordinance. If it passes, I mean,
Signing a contract with an attorney to prepare the bond documents and with an underwriter to market them, those would be the subsequent actions you would have to take.
Would you mind if I talk a little bit about something that I've done some past research on? I think you'll find it interesting, and I think it relates to what you're looking at here, okay? What I did, I looked at the city, well, I got this idea from the city attorney for St. Joe, Missouri. And I said, okay, here's St. Genevieve. And we're surrounded by an area that we'll call the rural tag area.
That's this map.
And that's the map. The accuracy of my drawing is bad. But here's the idea. In St. Joe, the folks that lived in that rural area formed a fire protection district. Okay? They petitioned the court, had an election. Then they had to vote again to assess a tax. But the tax that a fire protection district can assess is up to 30 cents per $100 valuation. Now this stuff gets a little tricky, but if we had to guess on what the assessed valuation, that's real and personal property. Would you hold that cap? Sure. Give it back immediately when I want it. Assessed valuation, real and personal. And the state statute says they can assess up to 30 cents a hundred. Okay. So I don't remember who I was talking to. It might have been the mayor, it might have been Martin or whatever, but we were trying to guess, what do we think the assessed valuation might be, wild guess, in this territory that we protect. And right now, we're having them buy fire tags. But in St. Joe, they formed the fire protection district, authorized the tax, signed a contract with the city, so they didn't have to buy any fire trucks or build a firehouse, and paid most of the money to the city. Now, if you guess, and this is a wild guess, I guess we are on TV. If you say the assessed valuation in this area, including all of the big industrial clients, might be $3 million, I suggest that's low. Might be 50 million. I don't know. But look at that map. Look at the territories that are in your service area, and think about the industrial clients. Okay. So if we could somehow go this route, and we had that revenue under a contract with the fire protection district, it's okay. So let's do the numbers. If you got 50 million, and we have to ask ourselves, how many hundreds are in that 50 million? Knock off a couple of zeros, and we got 500,000. 500,000 hundreds, and so much per hundred. And if they can assess 30 cents per hundred, so let's see, I added 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, is that right?
Yep.
And then 15, and point out 2 places?
Yeah.
Okay? All right, so I'm just planting that seed, because in order to do a fire protection district, you got to petition the court, you got to ask for a vote of the people that live in this area. Not necessarily on property, but the residents vote. Okay? Do they want a fire protection district? Are they willing to pay 30 cents a hundred on their assessed valuation, real and personal? All the trucks, equipment, start thinking. Now I want you to take a look at.
Real quick, it wouldn't have to be 30 cents. We could.
Wouldn't have, up to.
Up to. Okay.
Yeah. And, let's see here. Oh, it's these. I don't have enough for everybody. If you have your code book, this is 203, section 203, fire department. Okay? I'm sorry, I didn't have time to make copies. But if you look on the first page and look at how your fire tags are priced, okay? They're supposed to pay an initiation fee of double the fire tag fee. Residential, $50. Farm, 75 over 10 acres. Additional property non-adjoining, 25. Business, $75 each business minimum. And then it says fees for a business may be set higher at the discretion of the Board of Aldermen with regard to size of the business and or hazard. There's a late fee, okay? Then we have another chart that deals with fire tags when people are closer to a fire hydrant. We bump them up a little bit, okay? So, let's draw a line here with a good marker, okay? What would happen if you set your fire tags based on assessed valuation? Okay? And we're not out to hurt anybody, not hurt a resident or hurt somebody living in a mobile home. But if you set your fire tags at not 30 cents a hundred, you wouldn't have to get that much. What are we getting annually on fire tags?
We're at 27,000.
Okay, so that 27,000 we're getting right now. According to the ordinance, it's supposed to be put in the city treasury. But it's being used for fire protection, okay? It's basically monies that we're calling off budget. So, if we said we're going to set our fire tags based on, let's see, we're getting 27. If the assessed valuation, now, most of the time fire tags are not set on personal property, but they are if you got a fire district. But if you assessed only real estate, what we could do is, it would be a major project, but go to the assessor's office and ask them, what is the assessed valuation of each tract on our map? Add all that up, add the total assessed valuation, and spread some of the cost of capital improvements by way of increasing your fire tags, so that the people outside the city limits would pay a share of, not voluntarily. We would say to them, you can voluntarily buy a fire tag, and here's what it costs. Here's what a fire tag costs. For your mobile home, $25. For your $400,000 house, $100. For your $10 million industrial property, $15,000. And apply that uniformly, or you can have two categories. You can say residences are going to be 25 or 50, and commercial property is assessed by some formula. I mean, it would take a little bit of work, but real easy math, to spread the cost of a capital improvement into the fee that you're charging to people that want a fire tag, and they're paying it voluntarily. If they say, I ain't paying that for a fire tag, you say, okay, when we show up for an incident, we get to charge you a fire tag and the cost of, appearing at the fire. The cost of appearing at the fire, I think it's $500 plus $100 an hour, something like that we charge if they don't have a fire tag. There's a power to assess that as a tax bill. But what I'm saying is,
Frank, can I ask a quick question? Who gets the money off of that?
according to your ordinance, it goes into the general revenue. It's deposited with. Now, from a budgeting standpoint, look, we got a volunteer fire department. These people are risking their lives. But if we want to get them equipment and supplies that will protect them and protect everybody that we're servicing, we have a way of allocating some of the costs, not all of it, because the new equipment does benefit the citizens of St. Genevieve. But I think you can take a look at how do we go to the people that are being served. Now look at these charges. I mean, think about it. Where does it say in there how much a large industrial client should pay for a fire tag? Where does it say it in there? And the ordinance itself gives you the power to adjust that. The ordinance, this idea about supplying services outside the city limits is not mandatory on us. Now, here's some downside risk. An adjoining fire department goes to a large industrial client and says, you don't have to pay that much to us. We'll do it for half. So what you have to do is you got to protect your turf. And Martin and I are talking about that. These maps that are negotiated with adjoining fire departments are supposed to be filed with the county and then sent to the state fire marshals to be on file up there. I don't think that's been done. They've been filed with the county, but the process of, because what that does is it triggers who's got the right to collect that show-up fee. Okay? Now, I haven't done all this. What's happened is you've gone to the voters and you're saying, voters, we would like you to sort of underwrite the cost of all this by a bond issue or a tax issue. But we've never looked at fire tax as a source of revenue. That does not require a vote, except the Board of Aldermen. And I think it deserves to study it and make sure that you're not going to put some business out of business. But they would have to pay, if this was a fire district, they'd have to pay 30 cents a hundred up to support the fire district. Then the fire district would have money to contract with us, and we'd have that money. So I'm thinking outside the box. I don't know of another city that levies or sets their fire tag rates based on assessed valuation. But that is a way of looking at who's going to benefit the most from this particular piece of equipment. Well, we got tall buildings in town, but there's tall buildings outside of town, right?
If we were to do the fire protection district, does it have to be on real and personal, or can we?
We don't do the fire protection district. These people outside the city limits, a group of them would petition the court and ask, say, please let us form a fire protection district. That is then submitted to the voters. Only the people in here form the fire protection district. Our municipal fire department stays the same. We're here, we got a building, we got equipment, we got probably some volunteers that live outside and help inside.
But it would have to be real and personal, not just real.
That's up to them.
But I understood from your prior conversations, that you weren't really proposing formation of the district.
No, I'm
You're
not.
saying the model of the district is X number of dollars per 100 on assessed valuation. We're not forming a district, but maybe that,
What if we took
that
that
model
model
can be used for us.
over
for
to
setting
the way
the
that we set our fire
price.
tax? And it has another function, and that is, we want to encourage people to annex. If you live inside the city limits, you don't pay for a fire tag. If the fire tag is a little bit of a bite, you might say, well, maybe I will come in, because I can save that fire tag. You know, you charge them extra for water, but it's all sort of per gallon. And I'm saying, why couldn't you have your fire tag per $100 valuation, just like you do the water?
So this is all an issue that we can take up
Yeah.
or after we
Or
make a
after.
decision here, and that's still on the table. That's still an opportunity for us to
Yes.
collect revenue
Look,
to pay for fire.
You folks are elected by the people. These are the folks that elected you. And what I'm showing you is that by looking at the fire tags, you can spread some of that cost to the folks outside the city limits, and they can say, I won't buy the fire tag. And you go, okay. So all we need to do is make sure that we don't collect less than $23,000.
It looks to me like if we were to reevaluate the fire tax, I don't know, maybe the residential fee is fine where it's at.
Maybe.
But certainly there's opportunity for the commercial properties and industrial properties to get them to pay a more reasonable share for their protection.
It just opens up some interesting study, and that is, should a $400,000 house just outside the city limits pay the same price as a mobile home for a fire tag?
I visited the assessor's office today and asked if they can generate the data that we would have to see in order to kind of make this in. And the assessor wasn't there, but the lady I talked to said she thought that she could do it with a query in their GIS system. So you don't have to sit down and manually go, well, there's this, and there's that, and there it is. So I'll be talking to her tomorrow probably and find out, if that's something they can do relatively easily. And then that would give us the information we need to look at to kind of decide whether this is something we should pursue.
So you've done this for me before. We've estimated what portion of the city taxes goes towards, of somebody's based on $100 assessment, based on $100. What portion of the person's city's taxes that live in the city limits goes towards funding the fire department? You've done that before. You don't remember what, I don't remember what that number is, but I know you've done it.
I don't, but I can find it and let you know.
Well, you know,
I mean, that's not saying, I'm not saying whatever's
Right.
fair is fair, but do you, if they're paying out of their $100, if they're paying $5 or $10 of that $100 to go towards that part of our budget that finances the fire department, how much can you charge somebody that's
Sure.
outside the city
yeah,
limits?
well, you can charge whatever you want to
You
charge.
charge
but
it,
if you're
but
trying to
what's
sell
fair?
it, and you want to get the cooperation of these folks that are outside the city limits, you're probably going to assess only, you're probably going to base your fire tax only on real property. Because the personal property, I don't think, is going to be easily derivable off a map. You know, you're going to have, all kinds of scooters and just different things that aren't going to show up on your real estate assessment. But, I guess what I'm saying is if you're looking at asking the voters of St. Genevieve to approve this, this is a way of showing the voters that you're going to try to get some revenues out of these folks and not asking for a charity. It's simply saying our fire tags cost this much. Buy it or don't buy it. That's not asking for a donation. That's saying you want fire protection, this is what we're going to charge you. Okay, thank you.
Great idea.
Thanks.
I think that would go a long way with the city residents and showing that the other county residents are gonna have part in it.
Yeah, we were going to address that one way or the other. This was an idea that Frank broached that I hadn't thought of. We're kind of back to the question, as far as the meeting at 7 o'clock, is we have to decide and read, at least for a first reading, which of those ordinances you choose to prefer.
Let's run it through real quick, pros and cons, Martin, if you'd please
Okay.
do that. It seems to me like the con on the bond issue is the fees that it costs to make that happen, right? Which doesn't exist in our other option,
To a lesser extent.
to a lesser extent, significantly less. I mean, I know we don't know real numbers, but just as a general feeling.
2%.
2% less, so this really is a wash, more or less.
Could be. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know the interest rate in the bond market relative to the lease rate, and won't know that until the day we do it.
So what are the differences we need to be
The
thinking about?
benefit of the bond issue is it is equipment specific. You say,
It's for
please
this.
approve this for this purpose, and that's all you can do with it. The other is an operating levy increase that you would promise to use for equipment, but it won't be in the bond language.
I'm probably just like most of my neighbors, I don't want to pay more taxes for anything. But I recognize this is a necessary piece of equipment for the protection of our community. So I guess I would feel better if I had to vote for something that had a closed end. The money couldn't be used.
They're both gonna
anywhere.
have
I understand.
10-year
But I understand, but the specifically just for this apparatus. The city couldn't just say, you know, we paid this off in 7 years, let's go ahead and spend some of this money somewhere else.
The
Yeah.
other 3 years,
Right.
we'll just keep doing it. and-
Yeah, the tax issue will not bind a later board of aldermen. That money will hit your general revenues. Now, if you enter into a lease agreement, you're going to really mess with the city's creditworthiness if you default on that lease. But every municipal lease has a provision that requires appropriation annually. And so some future board could say, I'm not going to renew it. And there's probably something in the lease that says, well, you don't get to go out and lease another truck like this. You're prohibited from doing that.
You'd have trouble finding anybody who would enter into a lease agreement with you.
Right. Yeah, but the city has a tradition of honoring their leases, and that shows up somewhere when they measure your creditworthiness. But it's true that a future board of aldermen, let's say you didn't enter into a lease. Some future board of aldermen says, we don't want that vehicle. If that passes, that money is general revenue.
I just think I would have a better opportunity to explain to my neighbors that this is what this money's for. This is what this tax increase is for, nothing else, it's for this. And then we have the challenge of convincing everyone that this is the right, that we need this piece of apparatus and we need to pass this bond issue. If it was open-ended, I would personally feel less comfortable voting yes. It's just in general.
Well, it takes that explanation out of it. that
Right.
You don't have to explain to them that, well, it says this, we're definitely going to do this, and most people think, oh, politicians are crooked anyway, so they're going to say, well, you guys, you're going to go out and buy whatever with it.
You
You're just
misled
saying
us,
that,
you
so
misled us with what you did back in 2015, and now here we are.
It certainly takes that out of the equation.
I guess that's about the only thought that I have on the difference.
So what is the consensus? of the
That's the
board?
question.
I think it would be to go with the one that's
All right.
specifically says for the bond issue for the fire truck and not the tax.
I think that would be a
I
good one to go
support
with.
that.
Yeah, me too.
I don't know about the rest of the board.
What do you think, John?
I don't like any new taxes.
I don't either.
But the
You don't
people
want
will
But that's gonna be
I don't
up
like any
to,
new.
that's gonna be
Up
up
to
to the
the
voters
people.
to
I
decide,
know.
including us.
This is a minuscule tax, John. It's not, this is a small tax. This is not that big. You know,
I'm tired of paying taxes.
well, I think everyone is, you know, but it's part of life.
And I think that's gonna be the pushback that has to be overcome,
Yeah.
for whichever way we go.
How long do you think before we get numbers on what we would need to do with our fire tags?
That, sorry.
No, it's all right.
That's a study session, I think, don't you, Mayor?
Yeah, I would.
But that's,
You could do some
Because, I mean, if
what
we
ifs
could get a
and
but
number-
that's going to general revenue anyway. That, right?
Well, yeah, but it could be used to, there's nothing that says you have to pay a bond issue off with the bond tax.
Okay.
You could use,
This scenario creates opportunities, and I agree completely with Alderman Hook that we should seek friendly donations, specifically from industry that we support, and this particular apparatus would support in the community and out in the county. But if you have an opportunity to sit down with business representatives or owners, and you say, look, we're kind of looking at a couple things. You know, one of the things we're looking at is we would like to ask you for a donation, and this is how much we'd like you to help us. And it's really, is looking at your budget, you sneezed and you already spent that much money. So we're not asking for much. Or if we can't come up with that kind of money to help with this apparatus purchase, we are considering increasing the fire tags, and on your particular business, it's going to go from $50 to, $20,000. So it gives you a little leverage to negotiate with what you're talking about. And I think as far as homeowners, I'm with John. I don't want to pay more for anything. And I do understand the concept of a $30,000 home and a $300,000 home paying the same right now. But right now, $50, $100 million business is paying the same as the $30,000 house, basically.
They pay, depending,
Yeah.
they buy multiple fire
But
tags
it's not,
depending on the
it's
structure.
not a significant, it's not, very realistic. So that's the elephant in the room, is collecting a reasonable amount from local industry. Not to harm them, but, listen, our firefighters are there to support their business in case of an emergency. So they need to pony up a little bit. And I think that, you handle those negotiations correctly, you never know what they're going to just throw you out, or if they're going to say, you know what, we would like to be a better member of our community, and win the little plaque every year from our business association that says we're a good member of the community by donating to this fire truck. But, donations are hard to count on unless it's from a business. They'll stand behind it usually. So tonight,
So when we adopt the agenda, we would be amending it to remove bill number 3982, which was the operating levy increase. Okay.
You need a vote on that?
I think so. You will when you amend the agenda. You'll see that. So we announced to the world that we had this building, and it's a public nuisance, and on Market Street and Merchant Street, that we think we wanted to get proposals to mitigate the public nuisance. We got one proposal from Geg Excavating. That's attached to your agenda. They propose to clear the lot and want a payment of $4,760 and then they would be entitled to any salvageable materials and the lot. You will recall that there was an insurance payment made to the owner of the house when the house burned that she has been unable to process because it's made payable, portions of it were made payable to her in the city. That it was $8,700 and something dollars, I got it written down. $8,618.27. I contacted her and explained that the city, before it releases any interest in that check, would expect her to participate in the cleanup project. She had a lawyer call me in response. So I'd like to talk about that in closed session. In the work session, however, the question is whether we want to pursue removal of the building consistent with Mr. Gegg's proposal. He has been working with a local, not a local resident, but someone who owns property in the city and has rental property, who would then like to acquire the lot from him and build a small home. The lot's only 50 feet wide, so you can't build much on it. It's new because of the setbacks that we have in our zoning order. So if we do pursue Gegg's proposal, Mr. Gegg and Mr. Knoll, Carl Knoll, wanted me to make sure that I inform you. The intent is not to have it sit there as a vacant lot, but to put it to good use and return it to the tax rolls and then have an attractive piece of property there.
That's cute.
That's what he's proposing. Again, he didn't, there's no commitment from anybody, but
I got a few questions. Trying to figure out what the total cost and the value of all this is. Wasn't it before you said it was like around $10,000?
Mr. Knoll totally disagrees with me on that. So I don't know. I haven't done
$10,000 to like...
Demolition.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you meant the value of the property. We had a preliminary estimate without going inside and analyzing it too of around $10,000, yes.
Okay, well, we don't know what the value of the lot is.
No.
If you took it at this, it would be $5,300. The difference between the 47 and,
Yeah.
I mean, plus the other $500 or $600 that we've got in it so far, so
Right.
57.
And then we issue a demolition permit at no cost.
Yeah.
Because it says partial cost to demo the structure. I'm not really sure what the partial cost is.
Right.
That's the $4,760 or?
Well, he's going to spend more than $4,760 to take it down in labor and equipment. That's what he means by partial cost, that we're not paying for the whole thing.
So the city would be in for $4,760 plus the $600 we already paid, plus the cost of a permit, and whatever the cost of the property or the value of the property is. To me, that's probably close to $10,000.
Yeah.
You mean the property value $10,000 or the whole thing $10,000?
Everything, yeah. I would say it'd be close to $10,000.
I would have no idea what a small lot like that would be worth. I mean,
wouldn't either.
I'm buffaloed.
I got
I've seen
nothing.
lots.
There have been some
10,000.
sales of not lots that small, in the $4,000 to $5,000 range.
Mhm.
I think a larger buildable lot is more like 10.
See, I don't know, depending on what we talk about in closed section, I don't know if we can vote on this right now, depending on what you have to tell us in closed session.
I'm not really asking for a vote at this point.
Yeah.
It's a
discussion.
work session for the purposes of discussion.
Right.
Well, it was advertised. There's been press about this whole issue ongoing. We've had meeting after meeting discussing it ongoing. I would think that any developer, realtor, anyone, any private citizen that was interested in taking on this project has had fair notice that it's out there. And if we got one proposal, that certainly narrows down the field, doesn't it?
Sure does.
Yes, sir.
Which I don't think this is out of line whatsoever.
How much of a liability does the city still have with the demolition part?
Well, we'll enter into a contract with him, and that contract will cover our liability.
Yeah,
He's got to be insured, workman's comp.
Yeah, he'll take over.
So do we convey the property to him before he does the work?
My recommendation is that we enter into an agreement, it's kind of a contract for deed. And so it says, here's the agreement, we'll pay you this much money, and we'll deed you the property upon completion. And then when it's completed and cleaned up, we'll execute the deed.
Upon completion to our specs, what needs to be done, right?
How much time will he have?
We haven't set a time, but
We'd want to obviously keep that pretty tight timeline for them to get the demolition done and the lot cleaned up. Try to get that done as quickly as possible.
yeah, as far as the construction, that's a whole other issue.
I got
Yeah.
really a silly question. This may not even pertain to this whatsoever. There's any asbestos in there? Is that going to be a problem?
I don't believe there's asbestos in there.
Okay.
Yeah, the Hotop property has there's asbestos in the siding, and that's why the estimate we got for that was several $1,000s more than this, because even though it's smaller, you got to dispose of that asbestos.
I have a question about that property after this discussion.
Yeah.
So, we'll talk about, one of the issues is if we have a claim against some insurance money, and we'll just discuss that in closed session, that would certainly mitigate the payment that we make here. I mean, we can budget something for this.
Right.
But we can discuss how to proceed with that.
So if the city had it tore down, we'll have about $5,400 tied up in this property.
You have $640 in it right now.
Well, yeah, but
Our
we gotta pay
previous-
$47.60
Yeah, we pay
to get it
$47.
tore down. So you're looking at about $5,400 we're gonna have tied up in this property, based on what we talk about with the insurance and what we can get back. on
Less
that.
whatever we might recapture from the insurance.
Right.
Okay.
The Hotop
Better
property.
pay than 10 grand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's
And then still having to
been
get
a
rid of the lot.
problem. It's,
I think
Get it
10
done.
grand would be a
and,
bargain. let
you know,
alone-
sometimes
yeah.
the city just has to eat it,
Yeah.
for the good of the citizens and the
Yeah,
neighbors.
I agree with you,
Yeah,
Ben.
me too.
Of the
Wholeheartedly.
place, you know?
Well, but as I say to whoever asks me to spend money, whatever dollar I spend for that is a dollar that I'm not going to spend for some other purpose that we had dedicated to. We don't have this
I know we don't
magical
have
mystery
extra,
fund
yeah,
sitting
I
there
know.
to draw from.
Yeah.
What I know about the Hotop property is I asked the title company to opine as to whether clear title could be achieved by someone. And if I got a title report, I called the owner of the title company and said, that's not really what I was asking. And he said, well, I was out of town and I'll call you back in. And so he then had a conversation with the city attorney, and I received an email. Did you get a copy of that email? It said that what would be required is an affidavit of heirship, and I assume that means then that with that affidavit, he would be willing to insure the title. Frank, you want to explain an affidavit of heirship, please?
To what end? Pardon me, Frank, to what end?
To sell, I'm not going to be involved in this process, but I have contacted property owners around there who have an interest.
My specific question would be, what's happening? Why hasn't anything further happened to board it up? I mean, there's still open windows. All the things that we talked about, and over and over and over again, are many of them are still an issue. So what can we do before we get into this discussion, which I'm very interested in, at this point? to get them to board the place up, to clean it up, to get the vegetation cut back. We haven't done
You know,
anything.
we've talked about our options,
Yeah.
and the people against whom we needed to act were
Yes.
the deceased owners.
Yes,
The children,
yes.
who Frank thinks have an interest in the property, have chosen not to act. The solution is to see if we can't get a responsible citizen in a position of ownership who will take action to either remove or repair the property. The kids in Florida aren't going to do it.
The kids in Florida say they really don't think it's their property. There's no,
They're not convinced they own the property.
yeah, they just, there's no will, there's no probate, they don't know, they don't think it's really their property. So that's the card they're playing right
Gotcha.
now.
So our quickest resolution to get this mess cleaned up and get this house boarded up is to go through this process of trying to find somebody that, if we can get the title available, to purchase it.
That was my understanding of the role that we discussed before, was that I would try and facilitate that, but that the city wasn't going to get directly involved
Right.
as we did on the Merchant Street
I
project.
just wanted to go back over that, so I've had, there's neighbors there now that still that, are putting up with a lot. And I did notice that there's a for rent sign and a very nice looking house next door. Who in the heck would want to,
But I still think, and Martin can correct me if I'm wrong, but I still think, once we figure out if these kids own it or not, and they make the decision, they make their mind if they own it, I think then we can move on it, because I don't think they want it at all.
If my understanding from my conversation with them is, show them the way out.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
They would
I don't
take it.
think they want a thing to do with it.
all right, thank you.
How does it, they don't think they own it. Is there a way, I mean,
Well, I mean,
do you force them to say that they own it?
I've been in the title insurance business, and I've been doing real estate law in Missouri for a long time. Martin's got a license. And here's what we know, is that immediately upon the death of someone, the title to the real estate transfers. But it's subject to being taken away if there's a will or if there's bills that have to be paid. But after a year, after the decedent's death, there cannot be any kind of probate, right? So that means the original vesting of the property as an heir is now fixed. So what you look at then is, okay, these people died, who were the descendants, are there any grandkids involved? And you just kind of do a family tree, and you file an affidavit that says this is the heirship tree.
Who files the affidavit?
Well, usually it's the family that wants to sell it, but the title company would prepare it and say, if we get somebody that's competent to sign this affidavit of heirship, then the heirs, along with their spouses, can transfer the property. So it becomes marketable without any probate, without going to court, if you've got a title company that'll insure. We've got a title company that will insure. Now, we're not interested in buying it, but if we show them the way that, hey, look, here's some interested people, if they come to you, all you got to do is call the title company and they'll tell you what you need to do in order to convey the property and get some money. Of course, the city could buy it, which is option B. And option C is we can go in and do the work and try to levy a tax bill and be out those dollars that you don't have for potholes on your day-to-day operations. So what Martin is doing is saying, look, and I think John suggested, let's let the free market take care of this. If those people don't think they own it, they're wrong. All they got to do is call Dave Weber, and he'll tell them what they need to do in order to give it a good deed, a valid deed. And then if a buyer says, we'll give you $50, and they're willing to sell it for that, the buyer can get a good deed, and they'll get their $50, and everybody's happy. But, we're not really in the brokerage business. I mean, all we can do is let the community know that this property could be transferred if the heirs, whoever they are, and their spouses are prepared to sign a deed and this affidavit of heirship. The affidavit of heirship simply says, so-and-so died, survived by this and this and this and this and this. That's an affidavit, and then that's it. You swear to that and file it. And remember I told you that the real estate transferred when the folks died. The night of the fire, the real estate transferred, subject to being given to someone else if there's a will that leaves it to the Boy Scouts or there's bills that have to be paid. So there's no bills that have to be paid because there was no estate open. There's no will because it's too late to file a will.
There are no liens on the property
No liens
prior
on-
to death.
No liens on the property. So that immediate transfer on death now has become permanent.
Who was that transferred to?
Heirs. And
Now,
under
now,
law.
what we know is that there is a daughter, a son, and a stepson.
I don't know about stepson. I mean, I haven't looked at the family tree. I haven't been asked to do that. But Dave Weber will talk to somebody and say, here are the owners.
Why are they saying at the same time that we don't think we own this?
They met with an attorney who gave them different advice.
Okay.
All they gotta do is call Dave Weber and he'll say your property is marketable right now. If they call him, the proof is in getting title insurance. If you get a title insurance policy, those people aren't stupid. They will only insure good title.
So,
But if they turn around and say, we still don't own it, then we force that to prove that they do own it, and then we can do something, if it went that far.
If they want to say, we don't own it, we don't want any money to sell it, you might want to offer them $1
You know, I
if they don't own it.
talked to the
well, how are you going to
the
offer
daughter,
$1 if they don't own it?
and they seem,
Well, what I'm saying is,
You
they
would
say
have
they
good-
don't own it.
That's why you get title insurance. If the city paid $1 and they don't think they own it, but they sign this deed,
Yeah.
we will own it. We'll have title insurance that says we own it.
Okay.
So anybody can do that. We don't have to do it, but it's freely marketable. The city took the initiative to ask the Dave Weber's business if he would insure a title, and he says, yeah, if they'll do this, this, and this. It doesn't require going to court, doesn't require probate, doesn't require anything, because the year, how long ago did the fire occur?
About March last year. somewhere around
Okay,
that
so the
February,
year's,
March.
a year and a half has passed. The year is the cutoff date for opening an estate.
so that's the status of that. And as of today, which is when I got the email from the title company, I feel that I can contact parties who I've talked to before about their interest in acquiring the property, and then get them together with the daughter who's been handling this, and see if they can't come to some agreement.
Excellent, thank you very much.
I have no further items on the agenda.
Take a quick 5 minutes, I guess.
Like I promised, here's a great tune. Glenn Miller's In the Mood. Let's dance.
Give me a chance to get up.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Alderwoman Beth Caldwell.
Here.
Alderman Tom Couch.
Here.
Alderman John Stuckey.
Here.
Alderman Mike Jokers.
Here.
Alderman Richard Cook.
I'm here.
Alderman Donald Stuckey.
Here.
Alderman Joe Prince.
Here.
Alderman Teddy Ross.
Here.
Marilyn Holt.
Approval of the agenda. Oh, wait, I think we have
2 minutes.
Right, yes. Move to approval, remit, bill number 3982, correct? What's that change?
Okay. We're taking that off then, so have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
You missed that.
Yeah, I did.
Martin, what do you?
Okay, MoDOT called me and said, he asked me a couple of questions about the right-of-way acquisition, and I answered them, and they said, okay, well, I'll be sending you your approval. And I expected to have it before tonight's meeting. It did not arrive. But we have verbal authorization, but I can't proceed until I get the written authorization from MoDOT. I had met with each of the department heads. They submitted budgets. Based on what was submitted, we are $254,372, more demands than we have anticipated revenues next year. There's some obvious things that are in there that are infrastructure improvements that, just because we need a new fence, you put the new fence in. But we're going to have a meeting. I'll have a meeting with the department heads kind of en masse, but we need to talk about a schedule of hearings for you to meet with the department heads after we've kind of gone through our massaging of the numbers, trying to get it into balance. Yes, sir.
When we have these meetings, are you going to propose a budget to us that the department head and you agree upon is what's necessary? Or are you going to, last year we had a really cumbersome process, I felt like, where we reviewed line items. I don't know how many quarts of oil the street department needs. I don't want to review line items. I would like to see a proposal from the department heads and from you to say this is where we need to be. And then at the end of the day, when we get the final numbers in and we look at our anticipated revenue, if we have to come back with cuts, you're going to already know that. You're going to already have that idea. So if you're looking at this department and you realize that this department's going to have to look at a 20% cut, or is the first proposal going to be the best proposal with one back and forth instead of multiple back and forth negotiations on the budget?
I can present you a balanced budget. The problem is that you, as the elected representatives of the people, should be making the decisions about what are the priorities. So what I would like to propose, and I think that's why there was some disagreement among the board members last year, was some wanted to do that more detailed evaluation of everybody's budget so that you were setting the priorities. Others, like you, said, we hire competent staff, advise us on what cuts we should be making, and we'll make
in budget management, the line items really have little significance when it comes down to managing the budget. If you have, you might have to buy 4 tires one month, 14 the next month, none the next. So I don't care what the line item number is for tires. The management comes at the bottom, and I do think we have competent staff that are going to advise us on their needs. So that's
So I think
all I'll say.
kind of what I would propose doing is saying, okay, here's kind of the base budget. Unless we reduce the level of services to the citizens of St. Genevieve, this is how much it's going to cost us to operate. Then, here are a list of things you might want to consider doing, but you can't do them all.
Thank you.
And that's what's going to get that is going to account for reducing that or eliminating that $254,000 shortfall. And then you'll be one from column A and one from column B, however you choose to do it.
I don't, and I understand where you're coming from, Alderman, but sometimes I don't think it's bad for us to sit down and go through a budget, to see where that money's being spent.
Well, I do that.
No.
But I don't need to negotiate on how many pairs of
No,
pants our police officers
I'm not
get.
saying that. But I'm saying that sometimes it's good to sit down and look at the whole budget and see where they're coming from and we're coming from.
That's the process that I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Just not the line, well, I think that's too much for this, and that's not enough for that, and I don't know what the.
We don't-
Parks
we don't know
needs. We need to review the
No.
detailed budget in detail. But the back and forth on, the little things is, I don't see that being fruitful, only because, at the end of the day, you've got so much money you're gonna spend, right? And where you spend it is gonna change because of operating conditions change. We gotta buy more salt, all right? So we gotta do something less somewhere else. And that is just budget management. But just in my opinion, last year's process seemed to be, didn't seem to be very productive to me when we negotiated some of those details. So I'm not qualified to tell you how many, how much weed eater string we need to buy. So there's no sense in me sitting here and listen to everybody else that's probably not qualified to know how many feet of weed eater string we need to buy.
No, but not buying mosquito control chemicals is a policy decision.
Absolutely, and that was made last year, be revisited and made again in this coming budget. So if you have it in there, someone's going to say, well, I thought we took that out last year. If you don't have that in there, someone's going to say, hey, we should reconsider that, right? But we don't need, so it's just a more streamlined approach to managing a budget.
I'm prepared to do that.
Well, I'm prepared to.
But I want to present to the Board of Aldermen what the Board of Aldermen want to see.
Absolutely, and I'm prepared to sit through all those meetings again this year.
But my preference would be the one that I described. Because unless we reduce personnel, and this is it, this is what we have to do, then that leaves us X number of dollars that you get to decide where it goes. And Dave needs a dump truck, and Aaron needs a lawnmower, and the police needs cars, and we don't have money for all those things. So we got to decide. Okay, so when do you want to have these meetings?
Doesn't make any difference. Whenever.
I told you when I want to have them.
Second meeting in September. So we need to start meeting next month. Before the meetings, after the meetings, other nights of the week, just what night?
Just
Can
not
we,
during
can
the
we,
day.
can we discuss it like within an hour before the council meetings, or?
Yeah. It just kind of
Don't get a lot done.
you can't have any extensive discussions because
I mean, maybe just start out and like a work session before the regular council meeting. And then see how far we get and.
I don't like being, 10 o'clock at night,
I don't
just
either.
make it a separate
I'd rather not
night,
do that.
and have a start time and allow it to progress to whatever it is, because we're gonna have more extensive discussions on certain, things than we are on others. I don't care however you wanna do it, but I can see that I don't wanna be here till 11 o'clock at night talking about it if it's not a productive discussion.
Or your review.
Our Thursdays, the off Thursdays, how are they for everybody?
Nothing. That'll work.
That'd be fine.
Yeah.
all right, so let's figure the August.
You want to start on the 31st?
That'd be the 7th and the 21st.
You want to start on the 31st, which would be next week. Is anything going to be ready to go by then?
Is anybody going to be tied up that Thursday before June 5th?
I guess June 5th.
I'm busy every night for the week, forever, so it doesn't matter to me.
All right, so the 7th, let's do the 7th and the 21st.
Well, is that, the 7th would be the Thursday before June 5th, does that tie anybody up?
I didn't know.
John.
No.
Well,
August,
do away with it.
What time?
And,
Well, 6?
6.
Yeah.
6 p.m.? Okay, moving on.
Wait a minute, don't we have a meeting that week?
We meet the second Thursday.
There's an off, free week.
So it'd be the first and the
Well, no, wait a
third.
minute. All right.
Yeah,
Okay.
Saturday,
All right, okay.
your 2-week gap.
Okay.
start.
We had a conference call with two railroads and Mississippi Lime and me and Dave over the drainage issues on North Main Street. I reported to you meetings that we had in this chamber, conversations that we had, and it didn't get anything done, and now we're kind of starting all over again, and the people that were in those meetings don't remember what was said, and even though we got notes, and we're so, on the 25th of August, we're all getting back together again to hopefully, once and for all, agree on who's going to do what to address the issues of drainage on North Main Street. I will tell you from my impression of the phone call, UP cares because their customers being inconvenienced. Burlington Northern, unless the tracks go under, they don't care. It's just through traffic to them, and they're going to do something. They're going to be part of the solution, but they're not coming as willingly as we had hoped. We had a first landmarks meeting with Petrie Powell in attendance. It went well. She did well. And I think everybody's comfortable with her point of view. We talked about the ballot language. Plans have been submitted for the new nursing home. We had a meeting with the owners of Riverview Park Incorporated. We kind of explained the circumstances. I reviewed our existing agreement with them, which the deadlines have passed for them, but we said that we knew that the board was desirous of that project occurring and that they should come back to the board with revised language that will give them the time period they need to do the work. We are reviewing the plans and actually completed them. There are some things missing that we told them we need, and they're going to be sending them in. So we're going to probably be ready to approve plans before they've even applied for a building permit, just to expedite the process. So there's no question that City Hall is not part of the solution here. Then I talked to the engineer on the Main Street Trail, and he told me that he had promised the state that he would have revisions to the plans that reflect the state comments by the end of the month.
All right.
Any questions? Anyone? Okay, this is the week for the staff reports. So, Eric, you're at the top of the list this week.
Good evening. I don't think I had much to report. We have extended a conditional offer for a new officer that will bring us up to full staff. He's scheduled for his testing next week, the pre-employment testing. His name's Kyle Underwood. He's actually the stepson of the Park Hills Police Department's chief. I think he'll do a good job. He's been in law enforcement as far as peripherally, like I was growing up, throughout his life, and seems to have a pretty good head on his shoulders, so I think he'll work out pretty well. Just gearing up for the Jour de Fête. We just finished up with the fair, and everything seemed to go as expected there. So, does anybody have any questions? Yes, sir.
Chief, tell us a little bit about the cops that cook thing.
Make
sure everyone knows what's going on there.
Okay, there's an organization called the Reading Express that provides books through the mail to any child in the county that wants books. It's a really good program. They keep the books. The children do, that is. Reading Express sends them out, and you subscribe to it, and it's just a good program to kind of facilitate reading in younger age children. So we even before I got here, have participated in a fundraiser out at the community center where we cook pancakes and whatnot, provided delivery service for anybody that wants that, and then all of those proceeds go back to benefit the Reading Express.
So everyone's welcome to come out and have
Yes.
pancakes with you guys?
Absolutely, that is. I think they actually start selling at 6 a.m. I know that we get up way too early to start cooking, but I think they start selling at 6.
You guys need any help with that? You got enough help?
We'll take all the help we can get, help with deliveries or anything that comes up. Yeah, anybody that's.
Will they get to drive a police car?
Yeah.
You're a
Probably
city
not.
employee.
Probably not.
You're covered under our insurance.
Do I get to pack and go?
I don't know about that.
We'll get you a badge.
I want to come.
All right, I got a quick question.
Yes, sir.
Can a person get a ticket with the cop not being there, probably only if the other person signs a complaint?
Yes, for example, a peace disturbance case, police officers cannot necessarily be a victim. They can't have their peace disturbed. So peace disturbing cases are entirely based on citizen complaints. So a neighbor is playing the music loud or whatever, the person that's affected by that has to be the complainant on that.
But the officer doesn't have to hear the loud music.
Correct. And essentially, both parties get an invitation to court and tell their side of the story, and it's the judge's discretion on how to rule on that.
Okay. It was a moving violation, and it wasn't.
We can rely on the information of other officers to take enforcement action. If another officer sees the violation.
Well, there wasn't no officer around. Apparently, this lady came down to City Hall and filed a complaint, I guess. The young gal got a ticket out of it.
Without knowing the particulars, I really don't feel
I don't
comfortable.
want to say any names, but
Right. Just get with them afterwards, and we'll see what the particulars were. I don't know what the...
kind of his word, her word, you know.
Mhm.
So,
It's the
just
same.
curious.
It's the same for us. It's our word versus, whoever we write the ticket to.
Yeah.
So they'll have an opportunity to go to court and explain both sides of that. But again, without knowing the particulars, I don't know really specifically how to answer that.
Okay, thanks, Eric.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve?
Mayor, Board. Last month, we had high service pump 3. It burned up at the water plant. That's one of the electric motors that send water to the system. That was rebuilt and repaired within about 3 days. So pretty quick turnaround by the guys, and pretty happy with that. We did take delivery of the new tractor that we purchased. Everything but the tiller at this point. So.
And the second reason was skaters on the agenda.
Yes.
Any questions, anybody?
Any questions?
All right, thanks, Steve. Then you have the fire chief's report there. Nothing on that, we'll go to Sandra.
Good evening. Well, we're 2 weeks away from Jurtafed, and that's exciting for everyone. Couple of things in your packet there. I included some of our recent statistics. In June, our overall visitor count at the Welcome Center was up a little bit, 6% up over last year. 1,864 last year and 1,970 this year. It continues a trend. Each month we've been picking up steam a little bit, and we're up about 22% this year over last year, year to date. We had 116 group visitors in June, 36% higher than last year. This one thing of note was that for the first time this year, we had a bus that came here to St. Genevieve to participate in the French Heritage Festival. So that was nice to see, and we'd like to see more of that, and I'm working at getting information out to these tour group organizers so that they can bring people here. Sometimes people are more comfortable to explore new territory with a group, and then they might come back later as individuals, book a night, stay over, do a little getaway kind of a thing. In July, when the river was up at the beginning of the month, we did have a cancellation of one of our dates for the American Queen. Right now, that has been docking over at Chester, and then they send a bus over here. As you all will remember, we had a bus that got stuck getting off the ferry last year because they had the wrong kind of shocks on it. But so we did have a group that canceled in July, so I'm expecting we might see a dip in those numbers next month. And then you have some data there about our passports. And there's a sheet that shows our month-to-month trends, and then also that shows our tourism-related revenues and expenses. This is just across the board, and this is based on the fiscal year. So from October through June, you can see how we are doing in terms of tour revenue and expenses. Those are always going to be pretty close, mainly because the bulk of this is when we take in revenue for the passports, and then, there's like $3 here, $2 there, $4 over here for the various historic sites that are included in the passport. So it's a lot of just revenue in and expenses out that offset each other. Printing and binding, we will have some expenses in this, but you have before you tonight a request by me to take a little bit of this year's budget out of printing and binding and add a little bit to postage, because we're running high on postage and definitely low on printing and binding. And then next year, in my proposed budget to Martin, I've made an adjustment that falls more in line with what we're experiencing in that.
The overage in postage is a good thing.
Absolutely.
It's responding to inquiries that we
Right.
receive.
Inquiries in the ads that we're running, and when people fill out a little thing saying, send me information about St. Genevieve, it's very good. And of course, we had our new brochure that came out in November of last year, and so we've been mailing them out to all the welcome centers all over the state and various other places too. So lots of postage, lots of information going out to get people to come to St. Genevieve. So anyway, I just wanted you to see that. It's one of those bits of information that probably is good this time of year with the budget coming up. I wanted to point out a couple of things just in terms of Jour de Fête coming up. There's a couple of new things, and one thing that we're doing again this year because it worked out really well last year. First of all, in working with the Jour de Fête committee, one of the things that they wanted to try to do was to improve, streamline their check-in process for their vendors. And so we kind of brainstormed a little bit, and I offered, they accepted, we're going to have a check-in station for the Jour de Fête in the Welcome Center. I mean, we're there, we're staffed, it's cool, we have restrooms. And so when the vendors get into town on Friday, we were getting lots of questions last year about where can I check in, and so we were, sending them where they needed to go. But this time, one of the Jour de Fête committee members is actually going to be in the Welcome Center, talking to people, giving them their packet, telling them where to go and when they can set up until 5. And then certainly they're welcome to continue that after 5. And I think it might just help. You might have, the vendors might be even more pleased than they are right now with their Jour de Fête experience. So we're going to try that. I hope it'll work out, and I hope that it will make for happy vendors for them. In addition, the World Bird Sanctuary will have a little screech owl and an attendant at the Welcome Center over the weekend, and this will give their staff a chance to come into the Welcome Center and cool off, and it'll also help direct people to the World Bird Sanctuary. Sets up a full display of lots of their information and animals at the backyard of the Felix Valley House, and so it will also help direct foot traffic over there because they could see a little bitty screech owl, or they could see lots of other raptors and so on. So we're going to do that for the first time, and One other new thing this year is that the St. Genevieve Downtown Renewal Program will have a beer stand on Main Street with live music, and they'll be selling the new St. Genevieve T-shirts that were made as a fundraiser for downtown renewal and to kind of help raise funds for the River Gauge Park. So, and by the way, if you haven't purchased a St. Genevieve T-shirt with the new logo on it for downtown renewal, we do have those for sale at the Welcome Center up until the time of Jour de Fête, and then they're going to take the inventory over to the downtown renewal stand at that point. Couple of other things. If you went to the fair, you saw our materials, our banner stand that pulls up, and it has information about all the things that you can see and do in St. Genevieve, and then the other one is Experience French Colonial St. Genevieve. These are based on the branding ads that we developed earlier this year that focus on our keywords, and also we worked together with the Brand USA organization to put that together. So I've been doing outreach events. We've done some in Perryville. We've done some in St. Louis with the Cardinals. Next month, there's a special day at the State Fair in Sedalia that is Women Get In Free to the Fair Day. Very popular day at the fair. And they have all of the tourism destinations in Missouri have an opportunity to take out a booth in an air-conditioned exhibit hall at the state fairgrounds. And so St. Genevieve will have a booth there, and we're going to use those materials at that booth as well. So that will be the outreach activity for August. And I also wanted to, has anyone had a chance to fly anywhere this summer on vacation or anything? Southwest Airlines, in their July issue of Spirit Magazine, this is in the seat pocket of all of the airplane seats, they did a special 10-page section about an adventure in St. Louis, because St. Louis is one of the places that Southwest flies to. And so, because we're a member of the St. Louis Convention and Visitors Commission, we were able to take out an ad in Spirit Magazine for a much lower cost than it would have been if we went and got a quarter-page ad in Spirit Magazine, just as an individual organization. So the very first, I hadn't even gotten my copy in the mail from the people that we advertised with, and one of our local residents was flying somewhere in Southwest and called or sent an email or something and said, I just saw St. Genevieve in the seat back magazine for Southwest Airlines. So that's kind of exciting, and that will certainly draw the attention of people who might not otherwise come across our marketing materials. So we're excited about that. In addition, one of the other things I wanted to point out is that tomorrow night is the fourth Friday for Art Walk, and so there will be Art Walk materials not only at the Welcome Center but at all the art galleries downtown, and it's from 6 to 9 o'clock tomorrow night. So get out and support our local activities and buy local when you can. And that's about it. Any questions?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. Best for last, Dave?
What? Everybody doing? Let's pass this around before we get started, so you guys can kind of look at that, if you understand what I'm trying to say when I get to that. You see my report, we've been, doing some patching and mowing, and then we had a flood come in the middle of it, so spent almost 4 days cleaning that mess up. We all like 50 loads of mud away, on which I'm talking, it was sloppy mud away from the Little Rock Road.
Where do you put that?
We got a special place.
Yeah.
He gave it to Felix, the levy district.
Levy district got it? Special place.
We have a special place.
Dave, how do you feel about the microcell redo?
I like it so far. There's a few spots out there, which some of you probably already noticed, which it wasn't their fault because the traffic went through there. And I mean, me and Gary, pretty good sized guys, and here this kid was walking across and we're screaming at him, and hell, he had this earphones in. He never even heard anything we said. He just kept walking, and we're like, okay. And then we had, one of the county commissioners decided to lift the orange tape up and walk across it while it was wet. Then we had a little red sports car, or whatever, come out of the courthouse, and they peeled on it, and we're like, I mean, it's just some stuff like that that, we have no control over. We tried, we even had park two guys, so there were 6 of us standing there, but we couldn't control everything, so.
Hey, David, when I was going down Market Street today, I saw the trash truck pull in behind Lance Drury's office there.
Okay.
Go by and look at it tomorrow.
Okay.
That just didn't look like it looked right at all.
Well, that's the thing, them trucks are too heavy for that. The very first day, when we did 4th Street, trash truck come off Seraphin and just kind of skidded, but luckily it came out of it. But yeah, I mean, it's just too much weight for that kind of stuff, because it's still, as hot as it is, it's still pliable, so.
Yeah,
We need a rain on it, basically.
He left a lot of marks there.
I mean, just regular traffic, it's not gonna hurt unless you're standing there just turning your wheels, then it's gonna dig in. But when you got something that heavy, it's gonna tear it up. I mean, that's with asphalt, same way. If you open asphalt up way too soon, it's gonna tear it up.
Despite some misgivings and concerns expressed by people, we really didn't get anybody complaining during the process. We accommodated everybody we could with schedules and made sure the post office got the deliveries, the newspaper was able to direct people over here to purchase papers, and we accommodated as many of the interests as we could.
We tried to as much as we could.
It was nice to have the east-west streets one day and the north-south streets another, because then you could still somehow get around down there. Like if you had done them all at once, we would have been cornered in
Well,
at the
actually,
cafe and,
it was kind of messed up for 2 days, and I even asked them, is there any way you can do it all in one day? That way it's done in one day. But they couldn't do it because with the heat, everything, the stuff would set up too quick in their equipment, and then it'd be too dry when they put it down, and then it wouldn't adhere to the street. So that's why they did it with 2 days, and we were pretty well at their mercy. So we pretty well let them do
I
what
think
they
it was
wanted.
better that way. Yeah.
Worked out.
Yeah, it did.
Okay, if you look at that picture there that I'm sending around, that's part of the flash flood on 3rd Street. I don't know if you've seen that handrail that's tore up. Martin and I showed him last week about that. I don't feel comfortable about our staff redoing that. I mean, I'd like to ask Frank, I mean, if we do that, are we liable? I mean, we're not certified welders. Yeah, when Steve worked for us, we sent him to welding school, but he's not a certified welder. So, I really don't feel comfortable about us doing that work. And after looking at it, I really don't see even a contractor doing it that'll hold up. My suggestion is, the Main Street hiking, biking, walking trail, they're gonna make a little white line, around the floodgates. Why can't, I've got concrete barriers there that we went and we purchased to make sure nobody walks through there right now. I've got signs up, sidewalk closed. Couldn't we just put a little white line around the outside barricade until we
Well, I
decide
don't want
what
to
we're
direct
gonna do?
people into the street necessarily.
Yeah.
I think closing the sidewalk and keeping it closed, it doesn't direct them to walk in the street, but they choose then to go that route. That bridge is one of the things that we're talking about with the Corps of Engineers, so I would be reluctant at this point to invest a lot of money into new railing when we really don't know what the outcome of the Corps' work's going to be, except we believe one of the things they're going to authorize us to do is spend money on that bridge.
Yeah.
So I think it's probably best if we
I just thought
kind of
about
leave it the way it is.
drilling holes in the sidewalk and then putting a rail in, of course, having it manufactured. But then again, once, that force, if you look at that material there, that's not half of that. What was left from, after the big stuff already went through. So if that would tear it out, then it would take big chunks of the concrete out,
Yeah.
so.
Well, you and I talked about it. I'm not sure that design of the rail that was there would have met anybody's test of safety in the
It
beginning, in the
wouldn't.
first place.
Actually, it was too sharp, so.
Yeah.
That's why I want to bring it to the board and, let you know the reason why we haven't done anything with it yet, because I honest to God don't know what to do.
So we
To
couldn't
make
just
it
put a
safe.
guardrail up there, it has to be a certain height?
Well, yes, it's between, 36 and 42,
It's got to be able to withstand 200 feet of pressure.
200 pounds of site.
200 pounds of
It
site
seems like
pressure.
if we were going to do this, we probably should have an engineer design.
And again, since we
Better.
have uncertainty as to the disposition of that bridge under the Corps of Engineers, and they're pretty close, I think, to getting some information to us, we'll know what we have to work with. If they say to us, that's one of the elements that you can use your money on and get reimbursed, and, you know, if we ever get any future federal money. That
Is
would
this
probably be the
something
thing to
that,
do.
I mean, do a lot of kids use that during the school year?
I don't know, that's a good question.
There's quite a few kids go through there.
Or it might
And
be
there's always
something
kids
we
down there
do
fishing.
before the school starts.
Yeah, well, we're not going to get the core resolution before school starts.
Well, we know that.
You know, bad thing of it, if you get an engineer, which probably should, but for them to design something that's gonna withstand that, it's gonna cost a fortune.
Yeah, it's,
Well, I don't know too much about pressure, but I'm pretty sure there's more than 200 pounds of pressure when we have flash flood going through there.
well, I mean,
For a human, but I mean, no matter what we
From a
put there,
safety standpoint,
the next
that
flash
being
flood's going to
posted
probably
thing,
knock it down again.
200
Well, and that was the other thing we
pounds of
discussed, is
sidewalk
whether we could
Not
design something that would act like a trash gate in a
Knock
creek,
it
you know,
off.
where it would
Kind of.
release if debris hit it instead of catching it.
But if you wonder why we haven't did anything yet, that's the reason, because I don't have a clue what to do and make it safe. Protect us and everybody else. You know, the kids' safety is more important than anything else. And that's why we put concrete barriers there to make them walk around, but you know what's gonna happen, they're gonna climb over them, so.
It's not
So who put the initial one up?
too long.
The city did quite a few years ago.
When I was a kid, I think it was a wooden one there, wasn't it? A wooden railing there?
Posts there already. Yeah, this is,
No, there was a round rail there years ago when I started.
right, and then this rail is.
But on
Like
the
a
other
pipe,
side-
pipe rail, or?
So they got.
Yeah, the pipe.
Because this
rail.
is,
The
this is
bolts at the top.
well stock.
But years ago, there was a pipe on the other side that was just there with a cable on it, and every time the flash flood would come, it'd just kind of, you know, throw it out. That's back when I was young and strong, and, you know, strong like a bull, you used to be able to pick it up, put it on there.
I'm not qualified to
Them days
design it.
are
If you want to fix it, you got an engineer to do it. That's how we protect people.
Okay, well, we understand why you haven't fixed it.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll wait on that and see what happens.
Anything else for Dave? Okay, thank you, Dave.
Thanks, David.
Have a good evening.
Any reports? Okay, minutes from the July 10th meeting.
Move to approve.
Second. All in favor? Opposed? And financial reports for June.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, old business, bill number 3979, second reading.
An ordinance approving a bid proposal from Microcom of Kansas for the replacement of a SCADA system at the water plant in an amount not to exceed $94,900.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, so, roll call.
Alderwoman Beth Caldwell.
Yes.
Alderman Tom Couch.
Yes.
Alderman John Stupi.
Yes.
Alderman Mike Jokers.
Yes.
Alderman Donald Stupi.
Yes.
Alderman Richard Cook.
Yes.
Alderman Joe Prince.
Yes.
Alderman Teddy Ross.
Yes.
We have 8 yes votes, 0 no votes. Bill number 3979 now becomes ordinance number 3920.
Thank you. New business, bill number 3980, first reading.
An ordinance approving a budget amendment to the City of St. Genevieve fiscal year 2014 budget relating to the general fund number 10.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, bill number 3981, first reading.
An ordinance calling a bond election in the city of St. Genevieve, Missouri, and authorizing certain actions in connection therewith.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
I got 6 yes and 2 against. Okay, anyone in the audience like to address the board?
My name is Bob Browning. I live at 498 Merchant. I'd like to start out by thanking the board and Mr. Toma for purchasing the house on Merchant Street. Thank you very much. I mean, that much appreciated from the neighborhood. And I do thank you guys for that. Then I want to get back to an ongoing problem that I'm having. You know, everybody's aware how the kid's been doing with my family, myself, and the neighbors. On Saturday, the 12th, this kid, I can't say his name, but he's nephew, but to tell you who he is, he was the nephew of the ex-Alderwoman Zerwig. Okay, Saturday on the 12th, my girlfriend was at the BP gas station. He flips her off. Later that same day, I'm walking on 4th Street. He hollers, "F you, old man." That same evening at 8:30, my neighbor's big old flower pot gets hurled outside my house, missed my window by that much. Okay, there was 3 or 4 kids who ran down the street, called the police, and the officer came out, took a report, and my girlfriend told about the gas station incident, and I told the officer about him hollering at me. Well, to this date, nobody's come out to do any follow-up on this kid for the gas station incident and hollering at me. Now, I won't get into a whole lot of details, but you know my gripe is I've been complaining about the unfairness in this town. Okay? When I was in court last week and Clementine was there, she heard the same thing I've heard, I'm sure. We get in there, the first thing that the judge says, my attorney said something, don't remember what my attorney said. He tells my attorney, "Be quiet, sit down. I got things I got to do." Okay? Well, during the proceedings, this same kid that flipped off my girlfriend, hollered at me, he's on the witness stand taking the fifth, but that's everybody's right. Well, the problem is, the lady from the probation department is out going like this to him, telling the kid what to say. Then she runs up, interferes with the proceedings, and tells the DA, oh, he doesn't know what he's saying. My attorney blows up because he seen what was going on. She's back there like this. Judge Inman, he looks up, he sees her going like this, puts his head back down. What is going on in this town? I mean, this is unreal. The injustice, the corruption that is blatantly going on. Some of you talk to me, and I give more details. I'm trying not to embarrass some people, but I'm going to give it another Alderman meeting to see if somebody or people will try to get something going here. If not, I'm coming next time, and there's going to be people here that's going to be embarrassed. And I don't want to do that publicly, but if I have to, I will. I just can't keep living like this. When the court system is...
Bob, the city doesn't have any control over that court.
I know,
or those
but
proceedings.
it's...
I mean, we can't at this table do a thing about it.
I know that, but it starts down at the level of the police chief. That you guys can have something to do with.
But we can't control the probation.
I know that, sir.
None of that.
I understand that, but when I'm bringing this to your attention, that it's starting down at the city level, and I can't get no help. I mean, absolutely no help. This kid continuously harassing us. He hasn't even been charged for what he openly said he did to us. That was a way long time ago. And these kids don't stop. They keep doing it to us. And like I said, I pay the price because I won't keep my mouth shut. I won't shut up. And it's a serious problem going on here. It goes way over what I'm trying not to say. Some of you know what I'm talking about. And some of you just don't want to talk about it.
On your incident that, I guess, on your incident that recently happened, you filed a report on everything that took place?
Everything I just said, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that was at probably, by the time the officer got there, happened at 8:30, give him a half hour, say, maybe sooner, and that was Saturday the 12th. That the flower pot was thrown and missed the window by that much, and I'm sitting 2.5, 3 feet from the window. Okay. And I mean, it's coincidence, but the kid, hours before that, flips off my girlfriend, hollers at me, and then boom, that night, and just, like I said, to this date, nobody's come back to interview me on a follow-up, but I'm sure if this was somebody else, I'd be somebody knocking at my door trying to talk to me. But when it comes to these kids, nobody wants to do anything about it. But arrest me. And I'm tired of it. I do nothing to harm any people in this community. If somebody needs help, I'm the first one to help them. I don't think this is fair what's being done to us. I mean, if anybody has any more questions or input, I mean, I'm here, I'm ready to listen. But I'm telling you, if I had to come back here again next Aldermen, I'm saying names.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, sure, Paul.
Got to give me a chance to get started. Mayor, City Administrator, members of the board, listening audience, my name is Carl Weiner. I live at 1158 Valley Spring Trails. I'm up here with the same old stuff, I guess you might say. I took it upon myself to go down to the courthouse, and I got some figures from them, and I read about what basically is the taxes going to draw a year was somewhere in the neighborhood, maybe 79,000, but it's actually a little bit more than that, and it's going to go up in July. I calculated my own property, and whatever it was, it comes up to $68, which I'm going to pay. Now, that was only for my houses and my car and truck. If I had a trailer to pull behind my truck, that would be taxed. If I had a four-wheeler, that would be taxed. If I had a lawnmower that was over 20 horsepower, that would be taxed. If I had a motorhome, motorcycle, travel trailer, whatever you want to have, it's going to cost you. Now that stuff is not coming out in the paper. You're telling the people one thing, but you ain't telling them all. I'll let that go at that. I was out of town Saturday, and I went across a fire department. And outside was a big, shiny ladder truck. And I looked at that thing as I went by. Now, I got a suspicion that if this thing passes, I don't know if that 75-foot ladder truck is going to fit in that firehouse over there. Now, if that's the case, somebody better come up and do some measurements Because I hate to see that thing sit outside or another piece of equipment sit outside because you put something in there that wouldn't work. I drove over there and I even looked, and it looks a little bit too small for the size of that. But that's another thing. I don't like the way things are going. Like the gentleman behind me with the problems he's had. With this tax, I can't stand for it. Now, everybody else can do what they want, how they want to do it, but I doubt very seriously if I'm going to vote for it. I thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, under other business, we have a approval of a street closure request from the Genevieve President Jamie Inman. I think that's in your packets.
Mr. Mayor, is there a form for these kind of things? Street closures, and, or is it just really, just a simple request and however somebody wants to write it?
Just a simple request.
Okay, that's very good. I move to approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And approval of a temporary liquor license request from the St. Genevieve Downtown Renewal Program for the Jour de Fête, August 9th and 10th.
I have a question. Go ahead, Joe.
I was gonna make a motion, go ahead.
The Knights of Columbus always has a 6-week waiting period before they get their temporary liquor license. We're down to 2 weeks and we're still approving temporary liquor license.
6 weeks is...
6 weeks?
6 weeks because of the city, I wouldn't.
No, it's not because of the city, but I don't know how they can get a liquor license 2 weeks before the event. When they've always told us 6 weeks, and it's been 6 weeks.
That's the state license.
I don't know.
Well, just for
We don't have a-
fundraiser or something there to,
We don't have a waiting period. So you come in, it goes on the agenda, it's considered. If you fill out.
no, but I'm not questioning the
Sandra,
city,
apparently.
but I don't know how the state is.
Yeah, I don't know what the 6 weeks is.
Neither do we.
There's two kinds of licenses. One's called a picnic license and one's called a caterer's license. I'm going to guess you probably do a picnic license and it might take longer, and they're doing a caterer's license.
I don't know.
I have a quick question about this too.
Is this going to be on private property, the stand for this, or where's it going to be located?
Sandra, who's up?
It's going to be on North Main Street, where Lulu's old building was. It's an empty building.
In the building itself?
No, it's going to be out front,
On the street or the sidewalk?
right?
Okay. I believe most of the other ones that we have, if not all the other ones that we have, are located on private property. I don't know if that affects our insurance, or...
I know for years, at the old fire department, they had one there, it was right on the sidewalk.
You used to have them out in the street for years.
Okay. I noticed the trend of the other ones and just wanted to at least
Yeah.
ask what the requirements were there.
Do we need to look at that?
At
from
the Jour de
Well-
Fête committee meeting, they said that, and I don't know, but they said that during Jour de Fête, the streets belong to Jour de Fête. Like there's some kind of...
I don't think
Well,
that's exactly accurate.
I find no specific prohibition against the sale of alcohol on the city streets.
Pardon me?
I don't find any language that specifically prohibits it. I understand that may have been the policy over the years, but it's not documented anywhere.
Okay, so it's fine, that's good.
Second motion.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, you need to, have a motion to go into closed session, discuss a legal matter.
Motion?
Second.
Roll call for that, Sue?
Alderwoman Beth Caldwell.
Yes.
Alderman Tom Couch.
Yes.
Alderman John Stupi.
Yes.
Alderman Mike Jokers.
Yes.
Alderman Richard Hook.
Yes.
Alderman Brian Stupi.
Yes.
Alderman Joe Prince.
Yes.
Alderman Teddy Ross.
State.
Channels 7 and 98 TV and web broadcasting are made possible through contributions and donations from viewers like you. Thank you for your support.